Through all my random hyperfixation that cycle through my head like a revolving door, Precure is the one thing that has single-handedly stained my brain the hardest. Magical girl brain rot is real, guys, and one of my favorite things on the internet ever are those videos where people just talk about magical girl OCs and design them and talk about the lore for like 20 minutes straight. Bonus points if the video in question involves Precure. Back when I hardly even knew what the series was, I was designing my own fan series, and yeah, I think the art is fine. I just personally think I've grown a lot as an artist since then. So that's what we'll be focusing on today. Characters from my Precure fan series, largely redesigned with a ton of story changes. But first, and I think most of you guys are probably already expecting this, I need to give an obligatory explanation of what Precure is. Described as Power Rangers with princesses, Precure has an absurd amount of seasons, but don't worry because almost all of them are basically completely different shows that follow the exact same premise. A small group of girls, with exceptions, who are sought out by the marketable mascot of the season, or a fairy, who comes to a magical world that is either in danger or already destroyed. The protagonist, the ability to transform into a marketable superhero-adjacent alter ego called a Precure, where they fight evil monsters to save the Earth and the other magical world. It's more slice of life than your standard superhero story, so try to keep that in mind. Alright, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I can actually talk about the OCs now. So, these are based on OCs that I've had for a couple of years at this point. Two of them are going through some heavy revisions right now, so I won't be going too much in detail for them, but first I'll talk about Cure Serene. She's based on an OC of mine named Dowser, who I've had since around when I turned 14. She started off as a weird cephalopod, whatever she is, but I'm considering just making her a hybrid thing right now. Anyways, Cure Serene, or her civilian form Diane, is attending her final year in high school. Like any lead Cure, she's very caring, sweet, and passionate, though struggles with anxiety and confidence. She's also the book-smart one of the group, good with science and English, with reading being her favorite hobby. She's a huge fan of walking out in the rain and exploring her local area. This is a really easy way for her to lose track of time as she explores new route after new route, but this time, even this late at night, she can't help herself but to keep exploring. This leads to her finding a strange pendant which she feels an even stranger connection with, granting her confidence she's never had before. Later that night, she'd find a weird bat creature in danger from an otherworldly monster. Being brazen enough to try and stand in its way, she unlocked her Cure form. For this season, I wanted it to have a detective theme, which led to the hat, magnifying glass accessory on her hat, and weird cape thing. Yeah, I just wanted to make her a detective. I also think it'd be cute to make the transformation item a magnifying glass, but honestly, I have no idea how to design transformation items, so I might have to cover that some other time. The themes for this season are honesty, passion, and aiming for the truth. Diane is a blue Cure, if you couldn't already tell. I don't actually know where this is in the time lapse, and she uses water-related attacks. Redesigning her for this video was incredibly challenging. I tried a couple different times, but I'm really happy with the end result. During the time lapse, you might notice me restarting the line art or changing the colors several times just because I was unsure of where I wanted to take this stylistically. I think the design may be a bit too tad similar to Cure Princess, or honestly any of the Happiness Art designs in general, but I don't think the similarities are too apparent. Oh, actually, I might as well just talk about the mascots and lore here too. First off, we have Benoit, the ultimate joke OC scrungly of mine. Basically, I decided to make it a meme for myself that for every series or AU I make, I need to have at least one Purple Bat character, or Purple Bat themed character, named Benoit, and each one has a completely different age, personality, and backstory. Here's a Mystery Agent Benoit, or a gender bent Michael Morbius Benoit, for example. It has no consistency, and for this one, Benoit is just a silly little guy. He is 8 years old and was sent to give each of the Precure their own powers. I imagine him having abandonment issues and struggling socially back at home, so as much as this is a power fantasy escapist story for the human Earth characters, this is also Benoit's escapism as he thinks of Earth as a surreal magical world of its own. The human form was a challenge with what direction I wanted to take him in as well, since I don't have that many young OCs under my character designing belt, so it's very difficult for me to come up with design details. But what I ended up deciding on was very exaggerated or baggy features, giving him a cape as well, making his hat utterly massive, and having these weird cloggy clown shoes. Another issue I had was the fact that he had an extremely similar palette with another one of my main Cure members, and I struggled a lot with trying to fix this in his design, but ultimately I like the color choices I had. By the way, my friend loved this design so much that he made me add Benoit to the D&D campaign we're working on, and if we can get this video to 50 likes, I'll force my friends to do a Magic Girl D&D campaign. and then we have Benoit's adoptive mother, Detective Starfeather, who is very hesitant to trust Cure Serene on account of being on a dangerous mission with her child, which is incredibly flawed logic because she is literally the one letting her child do all this crazy stuff, but whatever. Designing the actual, mascot pixie characters, which a relief compared to the incredibly complex designs of the Precure. I cannot imagine the amount of whiplash those poor toy animators have to go through. I'm getting to draw these, super complex outfit designs one scene, and then getting to draw, modified TBH creature the next. I feel so bad for them, dude. For Detective Starfeather, I wanted to play on the whole pretending the pixies are just dolls cliche by basing the design off an actual plushie I owned. Also, since I remember someone mentioning that we don't have a brown Cure yet, I took this as a challenge, even if this character isn't technically a Cure herself. Next, I have Cure Sleuth, the only other actual Precure member of this video about Precures, so you guys can just think about this is a duo series or something. I don't really know. I have other ideas for 2 less plot-relevant Cures, so I imagine this guy is either, a duo series or, a mid-season Cure. At any rate, he was a thief or some kind of criminal in whatever magical world the pixies are from, who ended up fleeing to Earth to avoid consequences. But when he found out that his homeworld, and by extension Earth, is in danger, he starts helping out the Cure, but of course, since they're being led by a detective, he doesn't want to get caught by them. So he uses a human disguise and tries not to get too close to the Cure, meaning none of them actually get a chance to find out who he is. Eventually, of course, his identity and misdeeds are found, but the Cure Serene takes an initiative and decides to give him a second chance, threatening to quit the Precure if he isn't let off easy, probably on the condition that he has to return any stolen items or whatever way he'd have to right his wrongdoings. His design phase was probably the hardest during the original design phase for him. It took a comical amount of time to get his design right, mainly because there aren't many male characters in the standard Precure series or magical genre in general, which of course I have no issue with. It was just difficult to find anything to use as a basis for the design. In the end, I had the philosophy of Precure designs resembling cartoony princesses, so I thought to make the Cure Sleuth character a cartoony prince, of course with some things to exaggerate his wolfiness, like the claw gloves or hair stylized to have pointed ears. I think the art itself certainly isn't my favorite, but I like the design overall. The wolf one was incredibly difficult because I knew I wanted to make them more of a standard wolf compared to the weird scrungly characters, so trying to find good reference material for that in Precure was very difficult. Eventually I found one character from one of the All-Stars movies who was close enough for what I was going for, so I largely based the design around that. Of course, with different body language. Actually, speaking of which, I think the body language in the main art was my main issue with the human form. This was intentional since I did it for a post where he was looking over at Cure Serene fearfully, but by itself, I don't think it was executed that well in isolation. Especially since his personality is more so meant to be very reserved, someone who keeps their emotions and thoughts to themselves. Despite being the most knowledgeable in combat, he's not as open to fighting as the rest of the Cure would be, and generally chooses to avoid violence whenever possible. Maybe having some backstory that relates to this and why he's a lone wolf or something, I'm not quite sure. And that's everyone. Immediately, I need to apologize for making Detective Starfeather segment so short. The reason I didn't make it very long is because I didn't actually know if I was going to design her human form or not. I went with very bland and muted colors to represent her being the most mature and, of course, adult. Not exactly interested in the hyper-colorful designs the rest of the Cure have. So, how do I write outros? This is my first major video. It was, a ton of work getting all these hosers done. I'm super proud of them, of course, aside from Cure Sleuth's expression, as I mentioned earlier. I'd love to make a part 2 of this, so please, if you want to follow up, maybe some villain designs, more Cure members, anything like that. If you're someone who has their own Precure fan series, please tell me. I am incredibly addicted to these types of videos, so I'd love to find out about more. This is my first major video, again, so expect lots of experimentation and inconsistent content here. Oh, and one final thing, the background I'm in is kind of boring currently, so I decided to make some things a bit more interesting here. I think it'd be fun for every video I'm working on to add one small thing to the background each time, and hopefully eventually I can get to a fully decorated room. So if you guys have any suggestions for things to put in the background, please tell me in the comments. Or if you generally have any feedback, I'm always wanting constructive criticism for my work. Apologies if my voiceover has been a little inconsistent. It's mainly because I don't really know how to approach the scripts I made in this. So I think that's everything for now. though, so now I can actually end it. Later, hosers. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to do outros. I really don't.